Studio Kingsley is proud to present this unabridged recording of Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland by Byron Kingsley. Read by the author. This work is copyrighted 2022 by Byron Kingsley. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, locales, and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. And now, Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland.
私たちは物語を続けます。
The 3-week expedition of Princess Kitty is off to a daring start. It began with an 8-day fishing expedition on board the steam trawler Maybelle, captained by Fred Groden. There, under the name Kitty Felinis, out of the 35 men on board, she had a fondness for a cabin boy named Gifford Rogers, a student at Carrigan University, because of his talent in music. During the expedition, things took a bad turn when a stormfish 4 meters long was captured and placed in the hold with the rest of the fish. To avoid the consequences of what's to come, Kitty insists that the stormfish must be tossed back into the sea. But Fred refused to heed her warning, knowing that he'll be making a fortune with the fish in captivity upon returning to the mainland. At the same time, the crew began to become suspicious of her, especially Cyril Lefebvre, a specialist and certified surgeon. On Sunday night, because the stormfish remained in captivity, calamity struck. An angry swarm of stormfish approached and caused chaos. Kitty tossed the captured fish back into the sea, but the other stormfish sank the Maybelle. Though she managed to raise the ship back up after the storm, 17 were lost. There she revealed her true self as the Princess of KAWAII Wonderland. For the remainder of the expedition, Kitty was in command of the Maybelle, after Fred relieved himself of duty. Under her command, they managed to survive until a giant swan, manned by the mysterious figure, the Master of the Swans, arrived and towed the ship back to the mainland. Upon arriving, the crew of the Maybelle has told the press about what happened, but no one believed them. What's worse, Princess Kitty left before the ship docks, always knowing that the people hardly believe in anything. Right now, all that is willing to change for the people of Kodono. The expedition of the Maybelle has motivated her to do what she is destined to do. Any wonder she would show to the world, it is to become a spectacle of spectacles, beyond human imagination. But unbeknownst to her, supernatural forces of unknown origin are beginning to have a certain fondness for her, and is willing to help her fulfill her own destiny. Volume 4, Princess Kitty's Adventure in Town. Adventures don't come calling like unexpected cousins calling from out of town. You have to go looking for them. Anonymous. Chapter 27, in which Princess Kitty does great things. Princess Kitty was relieved to be wandering around the streets of Kodono once again, and seeing that she is desired to do great things, she vowed to do just that, while making other grown-ups her friends. Exhausted and completely encouraged, she heads off to Main Street to find people who need help with anything. She found herself stunned when she came here after the Maybelle expedition. The huge red and white banner is fully unveiled, tied between two buildings over the wires that power the streetcars. It read, "Happy birthday, Kadono." She can't help but think to herself,
"It must be very important to them. After all, it's been 200 years since the city is established. I guess people wouldn't even mind if I'd be a part of it, even though I wasn't entirely human. It must be very important to them."
However, she turns to the front of a clock shop, where she noticed a sign that reads, "Notice. Clock tower out of order. To know the time, please go to City Hall at 402 Main Street for those who reside in Market Square. Estimated repair, 7 weeks."
7 weeks!
She exclaimed.
That would be too agonizing for the people in Market Square. Now the only question I would like to ask is this. Excuse me, sir. Could you tell me what happened to the city's clock tower? Has there been a malfunction or sabotage? Or nefarious prank? How long has it been broken? Days before I come back from fishing or hours after? Oh, how queer for a tower to stop working.
She looked at the clock tower. The time was 2:27. But when she looked at the clocks at the shop, it was actually 10:36. And seeing that she still has her scepter, she now knew what she's going to do. According to Todd Pratchett, this clock tower is a historic landmark that was built 150 years ago. But what he didn't tell her is that an old clockmaker, who, as his ancestors had been, was in charge of maintenance and repairs of the clock. It had never once been out of order after its long history. It would take 400 steps for her to reach the belfry. Inside, it was the most amazing sight she had ever known. There lies a mechanism made of huge cogs and wheels that runs the dials of each clock face. Looking at it, the main cause of the breakdown turns out that the largest wheel has been broken. And seeing that the clockmaker is nowhere to be seen inside the belfry, she decides to look at the whole city from the arched window in the clock face. There, she would be alone with her thoughts. She thought to herself,
"Not only I can see the whole city from here, I can also see the sea. At first, I thought it was a great big puddle of water, but I think it was wonderful. I was wondering if this city is like a huge boat in the waves. Ah, a city that looks like a huge boat in the waves. Won't that make people so gay of ever living here? But would the buildings be light as air, or still be heavy? If they are heavy, then the boat would sink into the sea. Maybe if the boat is like a turtle, about the size of the whole city, then it would be like an island that moves, and a turtle always have a shell that floats in water. Come to think of it, if only turtles always keep their necks out of the water. Maybe having a city underneath a turtle would be the most queerest thing ever."
After an hour has passed, with thoughts stimulating within her, she can't help but call out to the city around her.
The moments of happiness! What is an imperfect world without the need of a different reality, where no one could even doubt such common nonsensicality and such delusionality? What shall arouse the vernal brain into bringing forth with great desire a sense of enchantment now and again in a world of fantasy as a sole domain? The greatest thing anyone should admire is a unique being who can ever aspire. To those with thoughts of ecstasy, to those who even dare to dream, this is your opportunity to welcome and to deem a unique being of self-esteem, a unique being of elegance and unending affinity, who speaks the tongue of eloquence and bear a lack of irrelevance, with mystical divinity and unashamed felinity. If there's someone you should greet during a time of unceasing progress, I know someone who is always discreet as you walk and wander any street, the one creature who can impress in a moment of happiness a mystifying cat-girl princess.
Bless my hourglass, a voice called out. If that ain't no cat! She turned and saw a bearded old man, dressed in blue canvas coveralls and a red cap. He was carrying his red toolbox in one hand and a green lunchbox in the other.
Ohio!
She exclaimed.
Are you the person who takes care of the clock tower?
Yes, the clockmaker said. And you're not supposed to be here right now. What are you doing here?
I'd be happy to help you out if there's anything wrong with it.
It's just the main wheel and the clock works. It's simple enough. If you do have a wheel that size, the job will be done in 3 minutes.
And can you correct the time?
Yes. Do you have a replacement wheel?
No.
She shook her head.
Do you?
I don't either, he said. There isn't even one in my shop. If you don't have one, then why did you ask me if you should help me? That's when she pulls out her scepter.
If it's all right with you, maybe I can do great things to it.
Magic? The clockmaker asked. How unheard. I must admit that I have heard of magic when I was a little boy, but I never knew it actually exists. The scepter glows, and the main wheel disappears.
That broken wheel shall never bother you again, she said. Where the wheel once stood, it will wait until a replacement can be brought here.
But young lady, it will take 53 days, he said.
53 days?
That's 7 weeks. Have you ever read the sign at the clock shop that I work in?
Waiting for 7 weeks might as well be like waiting forever. In the name of the kingdom, the clock will work again, without the wheel. What time is it now?
It's almost noon, he said, looking at his watch. She began to sing.
I know what I'm doing, so just refrain. Every second that you've reckoned, I shan't hear you complain. Just sit here and wait. It's all sublime. It's just a matter of time. Go look behind the clock, clockmaker, she said. Tell me what you see.
He can see the clock face becoming transparent and eventually clear, except the numbers in the hands. He could see the minute hand turn back to XII. The time now reads 2 o'clock.
Is it in the right time?
She asked. Not yet, he said, baffled. Then she began to sing again.
Then it's almost correct. It's almost noon. Every minute that was in it, you can place on the moon. Just you wait with a song that has a rhyme. It's just a matter of time.
He now sees that the minute hand turns around before stopping back at XII. The hour hand is now at I.
Is it in the right time?
She asked. Almost, he said, baffled even further. Then she began to sing once more.
Now the song's almost over. It comes to an end. Every hour inside this tower, it's me you depend. Now my work is done. It's set to chime. It's just a matter of time.
He now sees that the minute hand turns around before stopping back at XII. The hour hand is now at XII as well, before the clock face becomes solid again. Then came bong, bong, bong. From high above Market Square, the clock's bell rang out over the city.
Now that was really something,
she said, her voice drowned out by the sounds of the bell. You used your magic to correct the time, the clockmaker said.
I did just that. But that's not all. Look what I did to the mechanism.
He saw the gears turning on the mechanism, but without the main wheel.
I'm sure 53 days would be long enough for my magic to control your clock before you get a replacement.
She smiled. Of course I'm okay with it, the clockmaker said. What is your name?
A cat-girl princess that can do magic like that is what every city, especially yours, desires. The Royal Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland. And you know, doing great things makes me feel really good. After all, that's what I thought the second I moved here.
If it's all right with people, I'm sure you would take care of yourself too.
I'll do just that. By the way, I'm currently on an expedition, and I got 2 weeks left.
What is this expedition?
Make some grown-ups my friends.
I can be your friend. For fixing my tower, you've earned it.
Now that you're my friend, let us hope someday we cross each other's paths again.
A few days after she fixes the clock tower, on a Sunday afternoon, Princess Kitty has no idea where she ends up now. After walking for quite a while, she had come to a place where the streets were narrow. Instead of tall buildings, there were rows of small houses nestled together along the winding street. In the afternoon, people must have been eating their lunch, for the sounds of clinking china and laughter drifted through the windows. Eventually, she arrives at 99 Willow Lane. There exists a small laundromat called Briggs Sisters Wash and Dry. She opened the door, and there was a jangling sound. "Can I help you?" She saw a rotund woman with her sleeves rolled up, washing clothes inside a basin with a washboard. "If you have any clothes, I'm busy," the old woman said.
Well, it doesn't kill you to count on other help ahead,
Princess Kitty said. "Other help? That will be nice if you can. You ever done this before?"
Well, I never do work manually.
"Well, here's how you do it. You head to a basin, take off your gloves."
Please, let me finish. I do work with magic.
"Magic?" Princess Kitty turns to see a short, fat woman with flaming red, puffy hair and green eyes. She wore no glasses and had no mole, as Princess Kitty had suspected. "There's no such thing." That made Princess Kitty cross.
Is that so? Maybe you need a little magic in your life. There is nothing worse than a non-believer of anything sorceress. Therefore, I would like to know your name.
"She's my sister, Daisy Briggs," the old woman said. "My name is Violet Briggs. What about you? Do you have one?"
Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland demands to do labor with magic,
Princess Kitty said. "Is that your name?" Daisy asked. Princess Kitty nodded. "How are you going to help us exactly?" Violet said. That's when Princess Kitty pulls out her scepter. "What are you going to do with that?" Daisy asked.
I suppose none of the people in Kodono has ever heard of my scepter before,
Princess Kitty said.
Back where I come from, I have received this as my farewell gift, representing great happiness throughout the universe. More powerful than tufted mazorkas, more slender than hoobler-zazzers, louder than a pack of shuppler-mups, and smarter and faster than a gaggle of Yelskinik no-ribs.
Mazorkas? Yelskinik no-ribs? What kind of bullpucky creatures are they?
You'll have to see them for yourself in KAWAII Wonderland. But the journey for you is downright impossible if you're not from there.
So you're from another world, Violet realized. We've never had one before. But don't you think this city is ready for a person like you? No astonishing thing ever happened there in 2 centuries.
Don't they?
Princess Kitty smiled.
Maybe I should make myself too conspicuous from now on. Now I want you to ask yourself, what will Kodono be like if there's magic? Will it be worth living?
If that happens, I'd rather hang out with a Yelskinik no-rib. Whatever in blazes it is, Daisy said. This city doesn't need any hocus-pocus. We're doing fine just the way it was.
Too bad now is a good time to start.
Then what are you going to do? Daisy demanded. We'll be here all day, wringing out clothes and drying them. You could see for yourself, Violet said. She showed Princess Kitty a line of 5 large basins, each filled with white clothes, another with black clothes, another with blue clothes, another with yellow clothes, and another with red clothes. They were all hidden in recent soap suds.
Well now,
Princess Kitty said.
The best way to get these clothes dry is a drying race.
A drying race? Violet asked. What is a drying race? Daisy demanded.
That is a good question,
Princess Kitty smiled as she sings.
What is indeed a drying race? What does it mean to you? It takes a brain to play this game, but just be clear that isn't new. The drying race is a spectacle, the gayest game of all, because it sticks with the same old tricks that never alters at all.
Her scepter encased herself inside a bubble, much to the shock of the sisters.
Why, they couldn't even carry a tune, not even if it had handles, she smiled.
That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life, Daisy said. Who ever heard of a drying race anyway?
Well, you and your sister are about to find that out. If there's one thing you must believe in, along with magic, it's me. Whatever happens, flood or fire or earthquake, it must be believed to be seen.
Violet placed her hand onto her sister's shoulder. Be reasonable. It doesn't kill you to have a little absurdity. Hesitant, Daisy said. As long as there's no funny business, I would allow it.
Is that so?
Princess Kitty smirked.
That's one of the promises I'll never make. Not ever.
About that drying race. When does it start? Violet asked.
Right now, if that is possible,
Princess Kitty said. There was a splash, and out from one of the basins, a sight that made Daisy almost scream. It was a white shirt that's soaking wet coming out of the basins, leaving out water and suds in its wake. It was followed by a lady's blouse, a man's underpants, a girl's swimsuit, a man's jeans, a boy's trousers, a woman's skirt, a lady's dress, and lastly, a man's long johns.
Finally! Just enough clothes for a race,
Princess Kitty said as she floats out the door. The Briggs sisters just watch as their washed clothes follow her. Violet and Daisy watch from the shop window, all the wet clothes lined in a row all over Willow Lane. Princess Kitty hovers above them.
As you should know, the drying race is a blistering race, she stated. An extraordinary display of skill, determination, and sheer absurdity. So don't mind playing fair. Chances are, there aren't any rules and guidelines to begin with. The objective is to have fun. That's how the cat got his meow, and the mouse got his squeak, and the bird got his humming, and the dog got his bark, and the bee got his bumble. You'll head to Market Square and back to Willow Lane. First one to make it back is the winner. The bubble she was in turns bright red as she calls out, On your mark! The bubble then turns yellow as she calls out, Get set! The bubble then turns green as she calls out, Go! The wet clothes begin running through Willow Lane, leaving water and soap in their wake as she soars after them. It didn't take long for the people in the city to be shocked at the sight of clothes running in their path. Oh! A man cried out. Look at that! It looks like someone's laundry on the loose, a girl said. Well, it wasn't mine, a man said. Mine neither, another said. One person tried to catch a shirt, only to get wet when it splashes water and soap in his face. How is that possible? A lady asked. What is this, some kind of publicity stunt? Another asked. Is it Mayor Donovan's doing? An old man demanded. I'm certain, an old woman said. I don't think so. It's coming from the laundromat at Willow Lane, a boy said. Indeed they are. And on the way to Market Square, Flanagan and Norm from Division 6 were patrolling Mulberry Street when they jerked to a stop at the sight of clothes coming here, running onto the street. What's going on here? Norm asked. Flanagan's eyes widened. Help me, Bob! Looks like someone's dirty laundry. Should we do something about it? Before Norm could answer, he saw Princess Kitty inside her bubble going after the clothes, singing, Here they go round on Mulberry Street, on Mulberry Street, on Mulberry Street. Here they go round on Mulberry Street on the way to Market Square. They're off in a good old drawing race, a drawing race, a drawing race. They're off in a good old drawing race on the way to Market Square.
Well? Flanagan asked. No, Norm replied, deflated. Just forget it and keep patrolling. I don't want to hear another word about this. I'm not saying why, just please. Without protesting, they continued patrolling Mulberry Street. In about nearly 40 minutes, after making their way through Main Street, the clothes reached Market Square where the clock tower rests. At the markets, the shoppers were stunned at their wits at the sight of the clothes. And high above them, the cat girl inside a pink bubble, singing to the sounds the clothes make.
Snap, snap, pang! Flap, flap, flang! Flutter, flitter, fling!
Energetically, the clothes even passed through the shoppers, soaking them with water and soap. One man screamed when he got soap in his eyes. Who doesn't? Look at that! The people shouted. That's impossible and nonsensical. Seeing those clothes flying and running all over the markets and the tents? Look, it's the cat girl! Maybe she did this! It's pretty unusual when she first came here, but look what she's doing now! But then what? What is she going to do next?
I don't know, but it better not be harmful to us.
I don't think that girl is harmful to anyone. Cat girl, stop! 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 Please stop! Try as the people may, Princess Kitty is unable to respond to them. She was too busy to show interest in anyone, especially those who don't believe. And after going through the market, the clothes immediately raced back to Willow Lane, where Violet and Daisy Briggs are waiting anxiously. She followed suit behind them. On the way, the heavy sound of damp flapping turned into the sharper sound of dry snapping by the summer wind. Well, Violet? Daisy said, unworried about magic any longer. Here they come. But who will reach us first? I don't know, Violet said. There's just a whole bunch of them. Immediately, the clothes overwhelmed the sisters. Feeling their fabric, they're quite dry. The race is over, Violet said. But who won? Daisy asked.
That's an excellent question,
Princess Kitty called out to them, as her bubble dematerialized and turned back into her scepter.
I vouchsafe that everybody won the drawing race.
Everybody? Daisy asked.
Of course,
Princess Kitty said.
The point of the race is to have fun. Therefore, everyone shares a prize.
What is this prize? Violet asked.
All the clothes to stop moving when they haul themselves into the hamper,
Princess Kitty smiled.
Most indubitably.
The clothes ran into the laundromat and hurled themselves into the hamper, one by one, where they stopped moving.
Well, it's time to move on,
she smiled.
Maybe we'll do a drawing race again, in case you're busy, now that you two are my friends.
And so she's off, onto another part of the city, where she might do other things to the grown-ups around her. As she walked along, her brain was busy planning hundreds of wonderful other things she would do.
Clever as I am, I think I'll stop at the orphanage where the cat bus drops these Bonvarian children off to be under the care of that kind matron, she said. They'll be thrilled to see me again. Maybe I'll play games with them for hours. They certainly deserve what's best for them.
As she talked to herself, she thought she heard sounds of alarms and sirens echoing from a distance because of her ears. Before she knew it, she saw a black van being chased by several police cars past her. Fortunately, she hasn't seen a scenario like this before. What has indeed happened? Only one way to find out. It's time to use Mirror May. She closed her eyes and lowered her head. She can see a hole that has been blasted out from the side of the nearby bank. Two men, probably brothers, draped in black, were hauling bags of money to the van. Eventually, the back of the van was full, and they jumped inside, speeding away. Her eyes snapped open and gasped.
They appear to be dangerous people. They should not be allowed to roam the streets, she shouted. And if the law don't get them, then I will.
And so she began to chase after the black vehicle. Meanwhile, Police cruisers with their headlights flashing and their sirens blaring chased the sleek black van as they crisscrossed, occasionally knocking aside vehicles that were directly in their path. Both cars blaze away at each other with firearms as the chase continues for quite a while. The van eventually squeals into a 180-degree turn before speeding into a narrow street behind it. After dodging a few dumpsters, two robbers, Kirk and Dirk Napier, were relieved when they lose the officers and their cruisers. "We sure made off with a bundle, didn't we?" Kirk asked. "You said it," Dirk said. "But we're not out of the clear yet. We have to get to the woods before—" "Dirk, why did you stop the car? Do you want me to drive?" "There's a girl standing in the way." The Napiers both saw Princess Kitty standing several yards in front of them, arms folded, glaring sternly at them. "Hi!" Dirk shouted, honking the horn. "Shouldn't you be in school?" "It's summer, you idiot!" Kirk snapped. "Ever heard of summer school? Let's get out of here. I have no time for this." "I think she knows what we've done," Dirk said, trembling. "I think she's trying to stop us." "Oh, we'll just see about that, won't we?" Kirk snapped before he pulls his brother out of the driver's seat and into the back. "What are you going to do?" Dirk asked. "Teaching this meddler a lesson," Kirk said, as he steps on the gas. The van speeds towards her. Kirk plans to run her over, but due to her feline reflexes, she moved out of the way before the vehicle came in contact with her body. "Did you hurt her?" Dirk asked. "No, stupid. She got out of the way," Kirk said. "And I really don't care about her anymore. Let's just go to the woods." "Hey, she's still coming right for us." "Leave it to me. She can't follow us through all that traffic." Their vehicle was speeding off, away from her. She screamed in fury, merely sounding like a cat, and goes after them, for she is faster than the average vehicle and the average feline. When Kirk saw her in one of the side mirrors, distance closing with every second, he shouts at Dirk, "Shoot her! Don't let her catch us!" His brother pulls out his gun and sticks his torso out the side window. He fires bullets at her, but they ricochet off her. She pulls out her scepter and fires a beam at the van. He screams and heads back inside. The beam destroys one of the side mirrors. "Kirk, I don't think she's an ordinary girl like we thought," Dirk said. She puts an extra bolt of speed as she leaped, thrusting her body towards the rear of the van. There was a huge bang as her claws dug through the metal. Dirk screamed. "She's on the rear!" Kirk pulls out his gun and said, "Take the wheel. Sometime today will be nice." He opened the side door and got out while Kirk takes the wheel, saying, "Be careful." Holding onto the side, Kirk calls out to what's behind the van. "Come on! I'll take all your 9 lives away!" Behind the van, she climbed onto the roof, her claws latching onto the vinyl and the wood with ease. He fires his gun several times at her, but she refuses to go down as she slowly crawled towards him. "Kirk!" Dirk screamed. "We got company!" Kirk saw a police cruiser several yards in front of them before looking at her, ready to take him down. Then there was a dangerous smirk. "Ever wonder how a cat flies?" he asked. Then her eyes went wide with shock from the realization of what Kirk is planning. Before she could react, he screamed at his brother, "Hit the brakes!" Dirk immediately slammed onto the brakes. Kirk hangs on tight. Unfortunately for her, Princess Kitty was sent flying out of the roof before she can hang on. Before she knew it, her body smashed through the windshield of the police cruiser, driven by Flanagan and Norm from Division 6. Instantly, there was a bedlam of high-pitched screaming and hissing from inside the vehicle, along with the shouts and painful screams of the confused officers. "They'll teach you, stupid cat!" Kirk shouted. "Nobody messes with the Napiers! You hear me? Nobody!" He takes the driver's seat again and speeds away. Continuing to scream, she kicked the side door off its hinges and shoved the officers out. With her hair frizzled, her tail puffing up, and her claws protruded, she slams the end of her scepter through the floor. There was a terrible burst of sparks and electricity as the magic surges into the cruiser. The headlights turned pink and glowing brighter. More resolved than ever, She hissed, and as the magic slammed the accelerator. The tires screamed as the cruiser charged after the criminals, while Norm shouted after the culprit. "Come back here with that cruiser! I'm turning you in for assaulting 2 members of the Kyoto Police! And I'm also charging you with Grand Theft Auto!" During the bedlam, she happened to scratch them in the face. "Calm down, Norman," Flanagan said. "The lass is just scared, that's all. That's what cats do when they're scared or aggressive. She didn't mean to hurt us. I'm sure we'll get a new one. But sweet name of Arthur O'Leary, that really smarts." Kirk can see that he almost reached the end of the road that leads to Main Street. Just 10 blocks left, and they're home free. Dirk was looking through the rear-view mirror. There are no signs of police or police cruisers. "We got away," Dirk said. "We're not home free yet," Kirk said. "We have to make it to Main Street. Let's hope we don't crash into something during traffic hour or we're dead." However, Dirk's eyes widened. "Kirk!" he cried. "What now?" Kirk demanded. He stared at the rear-view mirror. There's a police cruiser speeding fast. But there's one problem. No, make that 3 problems. The windshield was destroyed with a gaping hole. One of the car doors are missing. And the headlights are pink. "A car's supposed to have pink headlights?" Dirk whimpered. "That's stupid," Kirk snapped. "There is no way a police cruiser has pink." His words were cut off with a smash as the front of the cruiser slammed into the back of the van. Before he could react, he felt his head suddenly whip backward and then forward. He screamed as he held the back of his neck. "It's a cat!" Dirk screamed. "Shut up and do something, you idiot!" Kirk shouted, and slammed the accelerator hard. The van speeds off, but with her at the wheel, the cruiser swerves to the right and speeds until it's side to side with the van. Panicking, Dirk shoots her inside the cruiser. He happened to hit the inside of the cruiser as sparks continue to fly. Staring ahead at the wrong side of the road, Princess Kitty honked her horn, warning other cars to steer clear of her path. One green Mousette at Blinn 4-seater barely got out of the way just as the cruiser speeds through, causing the 4-seater's driver to swerve out of control and crash into a hydrant, turning it into a man-made geyser. Nevertheless, the driver and his 2 passengers remain unharmed, but shaken. Seeing the pillar box in the cruiser's path, Kirk swerved the van and pushed the cruiser to the left, heading towards the pillar box. When it gets nearer, he quickly swerved the van out of the way as the cruiser collides with the pillar box, enough to stop it from going after the criminals. At least, that's how it's supposed to happen. Instead, the pillar box shattered like glass as the cruiser speeds through it. Kirk screamed in pain as he holds onto his neck, but he can see the end of the road leading to Main Street. Desperate, the criminals step on the gas, and they were blindly met with bustling sidewalks, as they narrowly missed countless cars that shot past, their tires squealing and horns blaring, and pedestrians getting out of the way. However, that, of course, didn't stop that princess. "We're done for!" Dirk wailed. Kirk and Sierra racing beside him. Just as she begins raising the scepter towards him, he looks down at the tires. Thinking fast, he pulls out his gun and shoots the front tires. They explode, causing the cruiser to go out of control and crash into one of the buildings. Smirking, he said, "That was sure for good." "I think we got trouble," Dirk said, and pointed at several police cars that pull up ahead and form a blockade in the road. Officers have their guns pointed at the oncoming van. Kirk stops his van in front of the officers and pulls out his machine gun, just as officers bark out through the megaphone. "This is the Kyoto Police! We've got you surrounded! Step out of the vehicle and put your hands where I can see them!" "Got us?" Kirk asked. "You won't believe the trouble we've run into recently! We ain't got no time for this!" In a frenzy, he fires his machine gun at the cruisers. Behind them, the officers hide to avoid the gunfire. Kirk joins his mother with his own machine gun. Princess Kitty, who is watching this from the roof, lands in front of the crossfire, much to the shock of the Napiers. But they continue firing. To her, why do they always want to do it the hard way? She calmly walked towards them, constantly being bombarded with bullets, while one officer, Goodwin from Division 4 pops out of hiding and gasped. "Look!" she pointed. "There's a girl being bombarded with bullets, but it appears that she's not going down." Wild from the same division, who was beside her, said, "Impossible! No person without armor is ever impervious to gunfire, unless she's wearing a bulletproof vest." "I don't see any vest on her," another officer said when he saw her. As soon as the Napiers ran out of bullets, they got into the van. "Put it in reverse!" Kirk shouted. "Do it!" But just as Dirk steps on the gas, she was already there, grabbing the front of the car, making them unable to go in reverse. Kirk saw that the rear tires began to smoke, fighting for traction. "Let go of our van!" Kirk shouted. But she didn't listen. Her strength somehow magnified, she slowly turns the van slightly to the right, towards a tree. Sensing that Dirk throws his own weight at the gas pedal and the rear tires scream, she lets go of the front, causing the van to speed in reverse, and collides with the tree, smashing the rear of it and stopping the vehicle completely. The back doors burst open. Bills fly out of it upon impact. The Napiers were flown back, knocking them unconscious, but they were okay. "You see that?" Wild asked. "That girl stopped those robbers." "But she recklessly damaged one of our trees," Goodwin said. "Nobody cares about the trees," another officer said. "I say this is a job well done." "How did she do that?" another officer asked. "There's no way a girl could be immune without a vest." "Look," another officer said. "Here she comes." And came she did.
There you are, officers.
Princess Kitty smiled.
I do hope this makes your jobs easier, huh?
"That's true," Goodwin said. "But you must leave the crime fighting to ourselves. We don't want any vigilantes in our city."
Me? A vigilante?
Princess Kitty laughed.
I do anything that is for the security and safety of the people of Kadono. But if it's something serious, just look for me and keep your eyes open. You say the word, and I'll wash any perversity away with one simple stroke.
The Napiers woke up just in time to hear more cruisers coming. One of them has Flanagan and Norm sitting in the back of one of them.
I shall be leaving now,
she said.
May law and order prevail.
She walked away from the crime scene, just before the officers show up. "What in the name of Jack Fletcher?" Flanagan gasped when he saw the robbers' total van. "Those are the robbers we're supposed to catch," Norm said. "However, I'm glad they're stopped, before they can do more harm." "If only we had our cruiser," Flanagan moaned. He did see their cruiser smash into a flower shop. The officers opened up the front doors of the van and dragged the Napiers out. "Why should you be apprehending me?" Kirk shouted while he was being placed in handcuffs. "There was his cat! She attacked us first! She hurt my neck!" "Shut up and keep moving, you punk!" an officer shouted, and rams the tip of his club into his belly. The man falls to his knees, gasping and clutching himself as he's dragged. "He ain't kidding," Dirk was blubbering. "She ain't no ordinary cat." "You too, mister," another officer said. "Come on, let's go." "Norman, you wouldn't believe this if I tell you. There was this girl with pink hair and cat ears. But that's not the strange part. She seemed to be strong and is impervious to gunfire. Well, what happened to your face? It was the girl, was it?" "Maybe we should give you a cigar for guessing correctly," Norm said. "That makes perfect sense," Flanagan exclaimed. "You see, she was scared like a cat. However, it was those robbers. They slammed the brakes and we saw her flying through our windshield. She kicked us out and stole our cruiser." "Probably trying to catch those criminals herself," Norm seethed. "But we already knew how that turned out." Another officer said, "Hi, what happened? Think it was the cat who crashed your car into a flower shop?" "Hey," Wild said, "look up." They all look up to see Princess Kitty and her pink bubble hovering away. Norm sighed. "How are you going to explain this to the chief?" "I don't know," Goodwin said. "But I think you two should get someone to look at those scratch marks." Meanwhile, far from Main Street, Princess Kitty makes her landing in the park, the same one where she first set foot inside the city. That's where she found a poster on the bulletin board for the upcoming parade, which will occur tomorrow in honor of the successful launch of the Providence, a rigid zeppelin, as it makes her transatlantic crossing to Kadono. Because of that, with a heart of confidence, she decides to help out. But when she realized that since everyone will attend the parade, including 2 children she knew very well, she must not be seen like this, her normal appearance. Perhaps tomorrow, the time will come for her to use her egotistical persona. As the day reaches twilight, she ventures into a neighborhood where Todd and Audrey lived. At the same time, she was reminiscing her time as Katie of Corigo, because she might help out on the city's parade.
It's been this long since Katie of Corico has come into my life,
she said to herself.
I don't think she'll ever behave herself after what happened at Mrs. Malchance's. I still believe that she might get into more mischief.
As she talked to herself, she thought she heard sounds of music inside one of the houses, coming from a distance.
A celebration of some sort,
she asked.
Probably to celebrate the dirigible. You know, it seemed very wrong to enter someone's celebration without an invitation. But seeing that if I'm from another world, as well as being a personification of fun, surely they would let me in.
She went over there and knocked on the door. When it opens, she can hear the music from there. But what's in front of her was a girl with blonde hair that she ties into pigtails that are held with 2 plaits and teal eyes. She was dressed in a pink gown, white slip-on shoes, and a red heart-shaped charm tied around her neck. It was Todd and Audrey's friend, Francine. Most of the kids either call her Frances or Frankie. "Can I help you?" she demanded.
I was hoping if there's been a party in your house to celebrate the launch of the dirigible,
Princess Kitty said. Not even close. It's my birthday party, and I didn't remember inviting you. Frankie, who's at the door? A voice called from behind. Just some girl who's dressed as a cat, Francine replied. Just then, Danny, one of Todd and Audrey's friends, approached Francine and gasped when he saw Princess Kitty. Oh, so it's you, he said. Todd and Audrey told me about you. They even told Frankie as well. Sad but true, Francine said. Say, why don't you come join our party, Kitty? Danny asked.
I'm not sure if I could,
Princess Kitty said.
Are the Pratchett's invited? I really hate to sound like a jerk, but I don't want them to see me.
Well, you're all covered, Francine said. I didn't invite those 2 at the last minute. Besides, Todd and Audrey are busy, Danny said. So are you going to join us? You better behave at my party, Francine snapped. Princess Kitty nodded as she heads in. Looking around, the room was filled with festivities, cake, punch, and decorations. Instead of gawking at the chocolate cake, she regained her composure. She saw Francine running off to dance with a handsome boy she met recently. Beyond them lay a wide bucket filled with water and apples. 2 party guests were dunking their heads in to bob for apples. Danny called her over. Remember, Kitty, it's a party with friends, he smiled. The best way is to enjoy it for what it is.
I don't mind, especially if there's cake,
she said. I'll save you a piece later. You go have fun. While some bright, brassy music is still emitting from the phonograph, she started her attempt by walking over to the party guests by the bucket of water. One boy had just dunked his head in and brought it back up with an apple in his mouth. Nice one, Melvin, another boy commented. Now let me show you how it's really done. He was about to dunk his head in, but she had come over to see what they're up to.
Would it be nice if I join you?
She asked. Sorry, we don't have enough players as it is, Melvin, a boy with blonde hair and black glasses, said. There's only 2.
I'm certain there's enough for one more,
she said. Oh, come on, a black-haired boy named Eddie told Melvin. Let her play.
For example, if you 2 are good at bobbing for apples, that's nothing compared to me,
she said. To prove it, she threw her head in the water and pulled out an apple with her teeth. But instead of a red apple, it's a pink one. "Hey!" Melvin exclaimed. "How'd you do that? I didn't know there were pink apples. Do you see any pink apples, Ed?" "No," Eddie said. "There were no pink apples here. I've heard of red apples, green apples, and yellow apples, but I've never in my life have I heard of apples that are pink."
"Strange as it may seem," she said, "anything that isn't possible is possible."
"Who are you? Are you from the city?"
"Actually, I'm from another world, hoping I could help out those in your own who are in need of joy."
"Well, you've just succeeded by spooking us," Melvin said. "Do you know what a pink apple tastes like?" Eddie asked.
"You won't be surprised if you try one,"
she said. "I think I will. Probably tastes the same as other apples," Melvin said. He snatched the apple from her teeth and took a bite. Chewing it, he suddenly felt a burst of energy. "Fabulous!" he said. "It tastes like melted caramel. It's delicious and I can actually feel it running down my throat."
"But I wouldn't worry about it too long," she said.
"Why?" Eddie asked. Easier said than done. Melvin began to feel tired, and with his body wobbling, he walked towards the couch, where he finally collapsed. Some of the party guests looked on in disbelief. "Oh, man," Eddie said. "What happened?"
"He fainted," she
said.
"I told you that I wouldn't worry about it too long."
"How?"
"Melvin just consumed a pinquero apple."
"What is a pinquero apple?"
"A pinquero apple is a fruit that grows in KAWAII Wonderland, where I come from. Once consumed, people in my world could feel energized. Sadly, the outcome won't go so well when it's consumed by a human like him."
"How long will he be out?"
"Oh, how I feel sorry for him already. He will remain unconscious until early in the morning."
"Is there some other way, Kitty?" Danny asked.
"There is, Danny,"
she smiled.
"As soon as I wake him, there'll be nothing to worry about."
She leaned over to Melvin and whispers,
"Ringo no ningen shoisha, watashi wa anato mezamaru."
With a loud snap of her fingers, Melvin jerks awake. Groaning, he holds his head. "What happened?" he groaned.
"Something you ate that disagree with you,"
she said.
"I'll make sure it never happens again."
"There's nothing to be ashamed about," Danny said. "Why don't I get you something to drink?" He leads her to a table with a bowl of punch and several glass cups. "Okay, go ahead. Try some of this punch we've made," he said, filling a cup for her. She accepted the cup and took a sip. Her eyes went wide and her hair stands on end.
"What's inside it?"
she said. "Lemons and sugar," Danny said. "The sugar gets rid of the sour taste of those lemons. Would you like another?" But she didn't reply. Her face became all pink to match her hair, and her eyes become swirly as she lets out a loud meow. Before she knew it, she leaps over Danny's head and begins dancing to the music playing on the phonograph, swaying her hips to the beat, much to the joy of the guests, and much to Francine's annoyance. "What's going on down there?" She can hear her father come downstairs. "Less noise, please." He was tall and slender, with fair skin and black hair, with a matching mustache and brown eyes. He was dressed in a white shirt and blue jeans. When he saw Princess Kitty dancing and vocalizing in purrs, he asked, "Who's that girl, Frankie? Is she a friend of yours?" "It's a weird cat thing," Francie said. "She happens to have a good time. No wonder Ta and Artie started to become weird when they first meet her." "Frankie, please don't judge other children." As Princess Kitty danced wildly, the guests began to notice something. "Hey, look at her hair," a boy pointed out. "It's like it's on fire." It turns out that while she dances, pink flares began ejecting out of her, showering all over the guests, and the decorations, and the cake. The guests were unharmed, but the cake now becomes pink, with red hearts added to it. "Look what she did to my cake!" Francine said. "Don't worry," her father said. "It would still be edible. Why don't anyone eat some cake?" He went towards the cake and cut some slices on it. "Have some cake, children," he said. "We don't mind singing a happy birthday to my daughter." One boy, a 9-year-old named Bruce, eats a slice of the pink cake, but after eating, his eyes became big and sparkly with heart-shaped pupils. His smile became big and crooked, and he immediately jumped up and danced in spasms like a headless cock as his skin became pink, screaming, "Cocoa! Cocoa!" over and over again. "What's gotten into him?" Francine asked Danny. "I think it's from the cake," he replied. Seeing that the boy is crazy, none of them tried to eat it. One of Princess Kitty's pink flares hit one of Francine's presents, the one with the red wrapping paper tied to a blue bow. The box shakes, and out came mice whose bodies are made of chocolate, scurrying all over the room. One of the girls screamed like mad. "I have no idea how she could do that," Danny said sheepishly. "All that from lemon punch, causing enough ruckus?" "I don't care," Francine cried. "She's ruining my party!" "Don't worry," her father said. "I'll get her to leave." But before he could get to Princess Kitty, Bruce was in the way and shoved a piece of the pink cake down his throat. "Tanishimo!" Bruce screamed and runs off. In a few moments, he became crazy like Bruce, causing his daughter to scream. Danny approaches her, and he screamed too. "I think this is getting out of control. Kitty is carrying away with having too much fun," he cried. "Daddy!" she screamed. "Stop this! It's not funny!" Her father's left hand turns brown and becomes chocolate. In his hand, a huge shape bulges out of it, and when it's done, it's in the shape of a huge cherry with a large stem. "Toroshimo!" he screamed, and the stem begins sparking. Her eyes bulge when she realizes that he's holding a bomb, and she backs off. But the cherry explodes, and the entire room, and everyone, and everything in it, is now thoroughly besmirched with chocolate. The phonograph stops playing music, and Princess Kitty, being the only person who isn't covered, stopped dancing, seeing that the state she's in has worn off. She looked around in disbelief as Danny wipes the chocolate off his face. "Maybe it's best if you should lay off the partying for a while, Kitty," he said. "We know it's not your fault. We didn't know." Then he can hear someone burst into shrieks of laughter. He looked to see Francine, despite being covered in chocolate, laughing hysterically. Her father, who has recovered, got up to his feet and looked around in shock. "My house!" he bawled. "Look what happened to my house!" But when he hears his daughter laughing, he cried, "There's nothing funny about it!" "There is!" she screamed. "When that bomb exploded, everyone was unaware." "Please, stop laughing at once," her father ordered. "We've got to get this mess cleaned up." But the rest of the children begins laughing along, saying that it was fun being splattered in chocolate. Eventually, he joined in, seeing that her daughter is happy for once. He hates seeing her daughter being moody all summer. But out of all the people, the only person who didn't laugh, who didn't smirk, who didn't even chuckle, is Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland, the one responsible.
"What have I done?"
she said softly.
"I blew it."
"What do you mean you blew it?" Francine's father laughs. "I don't get why you're so upset about what you did. That was great. I haven't seen my daughter this happy in her life."
"I guess there is such thing as too much fun. And look how it turns out,"
she said. She pulls out her scepter, and with a glow, all the chocolate disappeared. "What are you talking about?" Danny asked. "We were having so much fun with you."
"But one of these days, it'll end up getting someone in trouble,"
she said.
"You'll all have to grow up one day and take responsibility. And it looks like I overstayed my welcome. Owakare."
Seeing her go, Francine said, "Wait! Don't go! We were just having fun. We wouldn't want you to leave. I'm glad Todd and Audrey met you."
"Owakare,"
Princess Kitty just repeated, as the door opens by itself, and when she's out, It slammed behind her. But Francine's father was disbelieved. She can't leave you children like that. Surely you all grow up one day. But why would you not worry and have some fun if she comes here again? Now, while I call your parents, you sit quietly and think about what you're going to do if you see her again. Princess Kitty has left an impact on Francine's party, thanks to her erratic behavior. But if this is how she's going to act this way tomorrow, so be it. Especially if she decides to bring back that egotistical persona of hers.